Hi everyone. Today I'm just going to share a little bit about the subject that Stephanie has set for us on worthiness and what that means to us. I've written some stuff down, so I will be looking back over at that. Some interesting words that came up to do with worthiness. Um, so the traditional thoughts of what is worthiness, having worth or value, the quality of being good enough, deserving of attention and respect. Other similar words to that to do with suitability, truthfulness, fitness, admiration, admired or supported. Then there were some other ones that I thought were quite good. Righteousness, upright, honourable. And then some other ones that I sort of felt possibly relate more to the inner child, which is something that I'm very interested in, to do with precious, priceless. What else? There were some that I didn't really like so much, to do with admiration, fame, note, deserving of praise. So the next question was, do you feel that you are worthy? When I really sort of consider that, I suppose there's a part of me that does believe that I am, when I'm valuing that precious part of myself, that inner child, that precious, priceless part of myself, and looking at my heart and the fact that that I have a lot of love and compassion for others. But then there's this underlying other aspect to do with my family programming, which whether I just sort of feel was maybe the way that life was back then. Women, I think my mum was sort of pretty much made feel that her role was to be a mother and to cook and clean and do all of those things, raise the children. And my father's role was to bring the money in. And then attached to that were that they weren't unspoken messages that I received from my father, because when my mum and dad had me, they were much older. Mum was 44, and which is not very old these days, but back then it was 44, and my dad was 50. And it was in Papua New Guinea, and it was very hot. And by that point, when Mum realised she was pregnant with me, which she thought was the menopause, she wasn't very well. So it was sort of an unspoken, well, it was spoken, to do with me, messages given to me from my father, which was that I should look after my mother, that I should be seen and not heard, that I should never argue or debate. If I didn't agree with something, I should keep quiet. And then because my sister was that so much older, she was 19 when I was born, and being the only girl in the family, I think that affected her in the sense that I'd taken that role away from her. But she did very well with her career, which is another thing to do with worthiness, in, being admired, because she worked for, she was a secretary to Prince Charles up in Papua New Guinea at one point, and also was a secretary for Michael Samari. Well, actually, it wasn't Michael Samari, it was someone else who was in charge of like all the roads and everything else, but it was a very notable role that she had. So I was never really able I was always in the shadow of my sister. And Mum not being well, she didn't really discipline me. So I wasn't really taught how to eat with using a knife and fork. I wasn't told what I could and couldn't do. She just let me get away with it. So there were very fuzzy boundaries. And then also my father would then come home and get very angry at me. So I think in a way that really affected me not knowing what I could and couldn't do, but without me even really understanding any of that. So, yeah, I suppose the messages that I received as a child was that the worthiness that I would be respected for was looking after my mother and being a quiet, good girl, which didn't really help me to have confidence and to feel like I could ever really take on a really big, responsible role. So that has really affected me, I think, all my life. Just going over these questions really sort of has rocked me quite a bit. If you were to, there's another question. Who has told you you are worthy? Friends have told me that I am. My support system with the doctors have told me that. I have a lot of very good qualities. When I was working at Save the Children, one of the ladies there who became almost like a mentor, she told me that that I had a lot of very wonderful qualities. When I was in the hospital at South Pacific, they did a lot of work on that inner child part and brought up the fact that every child that is born is precious and priceless. And you can see that in the way that people react to a baby. There's this real joy and reverence and respect, and just the way that a little baby looks out at the world when they're very young, just so open to everything. And so that's what we were doing, was trying to work with healing that aspect in South Pacific. Myself, when I was very young, having remembered a past life from the tiniest of ages, I knew that I'd been alive before. And then when I ran through the plate glass window, I had this feeling that I was here for a reason. And then having my children also gave me that purpose. If I was to get my worthiness on, what would it look like? Well, I suppose most importantly, something I'm learning about right this minute is to do with self-love and self-care, and that connection to source that helps me daily. Fully empowered and confident would be other things. Speaking my truth, being authentic in flow, no self-sabotaging behaviour, which is something that I struggle with, and the negative self-talk daily, trying to change all of those old programs, and reminding myself that I am worthy, and this is still a work in progress. And I dare say, excuse me, I'll be working on this for the rest of my life. And I hope that maybe me giving you my account may be a support or an understanding to others who may be similar to me. And I wish you all a good week. Much love, and bye. Mwah.